Hello, everybody, and welcome to this evening's The Danny Buckler Show, where I have a guest for you tonight. I'll just wait for some people to come in, see what's happening. Lexi McGee, good evening. How are you? Megan, sweet. Megan beaten to the punch for the first time in months. Normally it's Megan straight in. Today, nope, Lexi McGee just beat her. Shaz Miraz, welcome. And the guest is here. That's good. Excellent news. I have a guest for you tonight. I'm going to bring him pretty much straight on, in fact. How do I introduce him? I'm asking you. No, I'm really excited about tonight. This is someone that I've never actually spoken to face like this. I've corresponded with him, but I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I love his work. I love what he writes, what he talks about, what he does and how he does it. I could go on forever, but I'm not going to. I'm going to bring him straight in. Ladies and gentlemen, please, would you welcome to the Buckler Show now, opening the portal, reaching through to somewhere in Norway, I think, and bringing into the room from the art of not giving a fuck. It's Garrett, everybody! Boom! Excellent.
I didn't realize until you were just saying it now that that we hadn't ever talked like this.
Isn't it weird? I feel like it's this weird thing where I feel like you're a mate almost, but I've never actually spoken. It's just always been on Facebook and Messenger and emails and stuff.
Yeah, no, I know. I feel that too. And I've done so much work online since, I don't even know, 2010, 2006, but 2010 with video and that kind of stuff with Justin.tv, that there's something that comes across through electronic communications, similar to phone calls. Probably people thought that with phone calls and radio in the past. But if you're actually present, then there's some substance, that's transmitted back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's good to see you, man. I love your setup as well.
Oh, thanks.
Are you in? Am I right in saying Norway? You're in Norway? Or
no, I'm in Croatia.
Croatia. I apologise. Croatia. Yes.
Same thing, right?
Over there, where I wish I was. How is it there? How are they handling it?
Oh, it's fine. I mean, there's like the cafes and bars and everything are closed still. So that's a little bit ridiculous. I think that's ridiculous everywhere. That's my take on it. But I was saying that at the end of February, and then probably got close to getting banned by the time I hit June or July, and completely cleansed my friends list of people that should not be there. And now it's a whole different crew of people. Probably swapped out like close to 1,000 or 1,500 people. Like they left on their own, and then whole new crew came in, so that's nice.
I've had that. I've suddenly become very aware. I've always been with Facebook. It's like, even if I don't agree with you, I don't want to be the guy that's only got one set of opinions on his Facebook. So if I know you in life, and I've done once my one and only blocking and banning and get stuff happened over the course. There's just a guy, a local guy, I won't say his name, but he just exists to incite nonsense and gaslight, and just comes from a place of extreme messed upness. So I've had to I've blocked him, and I'm suddenly very aware of that idea of curating what you let in at times like these.
Yeah, and it's good in your day-to-day life as well, and really anything you look at. Yeah.
So the first place I encountered you was the book Rebels and Devils, I think.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It was Googling Christopher Hyatt and something. It was Googling Christopher Hyatt and pranayama as a phrase. That's when I first heard your name, and then I got Rebels, and then I saw you in Rebels. I got the new edition of Rebels and Devils because I had the old one, and it was updated. There was more stuff in it, and you were in there.
Yeah.
That was the first time I sort of encountered your work.
I haven't looked at that article in a long time. When was that you were searching?
Oh, it's got to be 15 years ago now, something like that. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It was the very early days of, it wasn't Command Z then. It was called something else.
There was a blog on WordPress called Creative Deconstruction.
That was it, Creative Deconstruction.
Yeah.
It was the first thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even know how to sell anything online at that point. I remember, I think I just had a PayPal button up there, and I didn't even think anyone was reading that. But then when we finally started tracking things and started up the radicalundoing.com website, then there was a bunch of people who were a bunch of people who had already been reading my stuff for all that time, but I had no way of tracking it before that. I mean, there were ways, but I didn't know about them. So it was pretty cool. So 4 years of like nothing, and then 2010, everything kind of kicked off. Yeah.
Dude, that's 11 years ago now. Christ, that's gone fast.
I feel like it's gone fast and slow. I mean, I've lived like, I don't know, like 5 distinct lives, you know, during that 10 years. You know, and it's interesting. I don't know if it's like that for everybody that gets deep with the undoing stuff. I hope it is. But you know, this kind of life goes way back to, I guess, when I got out of high school. But there's just, I could never understand why, no, not why. I could never understand how people could do jobs, just any job. It didn't matter what the job was. Because I tried like 40 different jobs, you know, from age 15 to till like 22, and that was enough. And and some of them were even okay. The first one, it was kind of cool because it was just a novelty to be able to have money when I was 15.
Yeah.
So I pushed myself to do it most of the summer, but and there was cool guys I was working with. It was like at a burned down, used restaurant equipment warehouse, and I was just salvaging and cleaning the stuff out there in this field, and so that was kind of cool in the sun. But
so are you a bit like me in that you always felt like a little bit of like you were sort of awake in a world of, like you kind of felt like you were an alien being plonked on Earth?
Yeah, I couldn't handle it. I remember planning, like thinking I would like stay at a specific job for a certain amount of time, and I would total up the money. Like, okay, if I work, oh, it looks like Daryl's here. Hey, Daryl. He's a good friend and a longtime client. Anyway, I would plan out. I'd say, okay, even if I stay 2 months, I'll make this amount of money, 40 hours a week times 8 weeks or whatever. And then I would get to the place, and in the first hour, I was like, nope, not going to happen. This isn't going to work. And and I remember going then, so 10 years, so when I was 28, I went to a high school reunion, a 10-year high school reunion back in Minnesota. And I had been hitchhiking out across the country and in Canada and all over the place and sleeping outside and like living this crazy life. And then I went to that, and most of the people there were still working the same jobs they had. Maybe they moved up a little bit, but the same jobs they had when I left there. And no offense if any of them are watching. A lot of those people did start businesses and things, but I was almost admiring them because I thought, fuck, I traded away this life where these guys were friends since they were 8 years old, and now they're 28 and they still know each other. They still live in the same area, same little town in Minnesota. And I think even then, when I was 28, I had this sense like I'm outside of something that I can never be a part of.
Yeah.
And they were all friends. They treated me really nice. It was fine. But I still felt like, you know, what would it be like to build up credit, to build up job history, to build up like family and things like that. And some of those things I still don't know. And I have friends that have been my friend forever, but it's kind of like my connection with them is similar to my connection with you. Like we could hang out. I already know we can hang out.
Yeah.
We could do all kinds of things. It would be fun. I have no question about that. And even before getting on the call today. But I also don't see those friends that often. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like there's a whole life that I don't understand.
I have that. I mean, especially with like just things. It sounds ridiculous saying it. This weird idea that I know how to get a room full of people laughing, and I can control it, and I can take it any direction that I want. I can make them laugh. If I want to bring them down, I can. Like a wizard almost. But I don't know how to get a mortgage.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how to go to say. How do you shop for a week? How do you plan this for a week? People do a week's shopping. I sort of, things like that. I get lost.
Yeah. There's some basics, and I guess I've learned more of that kind of stuff along the way, but a lot of it is not indispensable. I mean, so Yeah, in a way, you trade a life of not stability, but there's a deeper stability, but you trade a life of well, I call it the tomb of familiarity.
Yeah.
You know? The tomb of familiarity. So that's like this thing I think we build around us, the stuff on the wall and the people and the conversations and the topics and the things that you do that make it seem like you're not aging and that things aren't constantly in flux.
Yeah.
But then, like, even if you are perfect at creating that tomb, at some point somebody that you know dies. And then you're slapped in the face with the mystery of your existence again.
Oh, I had that this year. Yeah.
That's the only one you can't really get rid of or keep away, no matter how good you try. Somebody's going to die. And when they do, you're going to be, even if you try to forget it right away and bury them and move on, there's still like this reminder, like this isn't what it seems here. So the familiarity thing, well, it's nice. It's not true. It's an illusion. In reality, everything's in flux all the time, and there's adventure always around the corner, and we never know what's going to happen next. So yeah, I mean, that's what I teach with the Radical Undoing, is first breaking apart the tensions in the body, which is another aspect of that tomb of familiarity. The brain maps out the body. It has an image of the body inside, and then it will constantly reassert that same level of tension, and that's what it thinks of as homeostasis. So even you get relaxed, you'll fall asleep, and the tension will come back so that your body feels comfortable because it's familiar with that level of tension. So then the undoing breaks apart that tension and diminishes it so much that instead of the brain using its energy to reassert the tension, it's actually less effort to remap the body image. So it remaps the body image at a lower level of tension. So that's how you get this cumulative effect over time of less and less and less and less tension, which means less and less essentially physical armor blocking you from experiencing your existence, blocking you from experiencing life at the deepest possible level,
And we're not just talking about, I mean, I don't want to sort of give away your secret sauce.
But there's no way you could say all the secrets of the universe right now, and if people there's two worlds. There's the world of words and ideas and abstractions that everyone thinks is real, and they live completely in that, which doesn't exist. And then there's the world of actuality. So if a person is not in actuality, the secrets won't mean anything. And if a person is in actuality, they can discern the secrets for themselves. You see what I mean? So it's
absolutely, yeah. So when you came to the body via, actually, I don't know. You've had quite a journey. I mean, you're a little bit like me in that you searched. You didn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For years, I did. You tried everything like I did, and some of it worked for a little bit and wore off, and some of it worked not at all, and some of it was clearly nonsense. An awful lot of incense and.
I still like incense, but not for the same reasons. Yeah, I mean, I think I had like 3,000 books at the height of that insanity, and it's absurd because to actually make any of those books work, if they do, for whatever ones do, like some of them I'd still think are good. Some of the Hyatt books are good. E.J. Gould's books are generally pretty good. Robert Anton Wilson, there's some nice stuff out there, but to really make a book work, you might spend 5 years on what's inside it. It depends on what kind of book it is. Like, one book on wilderness survival. Fuck, man, you gotta put in the hours on that thing to actually make it useful in your life. And then if you imagine some of the occult stuff, they're talking about forging your own silver blade, or steel blade. And it's like forging your own blade. Okay. So then you got to figure out how to build the forge. You know what I mean? Like, so then there's that, and have the land or the space to do that. And so anyway, there was some moment when I realized, there were many moments, but I read a book I was trying to find a book from all these PDFs I had about making money or marketing or something.
Yeah.
When I was out of money and needed to pay the rent, that's the proper time to study marketing. No. And I read Robert Scheinfeld's book, Busting Loose from the Money Game, which I thought, this is some money book, and it ends up being a book like about, it kind of destroys the whole universe, you know. He's using the concept of money to actually show you that this whole experience of being alive is just what he calls the human game. And it's totally mind-blowing. And so at that point, that kind of unraveled most of the seeking that I had been doing. And I was already underway with the radical undoing stuff for, I don't remember how many years at that point, a few years. I was still in the OTO, so I joined that Crowley group. It was a nice group in Eugene, Oregon. I joined the Masons, which I also liked at the time, learned a lot from them. And, you know, what I learned from the Masons was like how to relate to men better.
Right, yeah.
On an adult level, instead of this fearing competition, jealousy, and all this other crap. So the Masons taught me just how to be a decent man with other men. How to help people become better, which is a pretty important lesson, you know. But I didn't really learn anything esoteric there. And then the OTO, it was like we had amazing barbecues and stuff like that. And like there were some cool things, you know, having the keys to a lodge building and then being able to put together your own group and experiment with stuff. That was pretty fun. But at some point, you know, when I met Hyatt, he sat me down and during lunch at one of the workshops, he sat me down and kind of disabused me of what I was doing, that I was joining these groups and studying all this stuff to find some way to make myself okay, to get up from being not okay, which is like a never-ending problem that is fake because you're already fine. And he disabused me of that pretty quickly, and then I went back and I still kind of hung out with people a little while longer, and I remembered becoming aware of what I was doing, and it felt nauseating, you know, like, oh, this isn't gonna make me okay. And then I was looking at the stack of books and I sold off most of them, and then when I moved to California and trucked the rest of those books with me, at one point I was looking at them and I realized, like, fuck, like these are all to make me okay, or to make me think of myself in a certain way that's not even real, not even true, and not even necessary. And then I sold them all off, like in this crazy eBay sale. And then I sold off all these trinkets from joining those groups and everything else, and was finished with it. And, you know, I mean, the quest or the adventure continues to unfold, but I was no longer trying to make myself okay anymore. I was just exploring existence, you know, and exploring transcendence.
Wow, man. Can I ask you how you met Dr. Hyatt?
How did I meet him?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a funny story. Back when New Falcon, when it was New Falcon, now it's Original Falcon, when they were selling this leather-bound edition of the complete Golden Dawn System of Magic, you know, another gigantic tome that, you know, I mean, it essentially leads to using the Enochian tablets, and which all essentially should effectively lead you back to some form of practical Christianity, which if you go far enough with that, it should lead you to the realization that the Holy Spirit is going to guide your life, and that you don't really have to do anything besides doubt all your thoughts and stop fucking following them, and stop following emotional reactions, and then let yourself sink into the actual presence of God and let that live your life. You know, I can't always say that. Now I'm just saying it. I don't give a fuck, but people have trouble with that. And it's so funny. If you think of it, if there is a Satan, if there's evil, the perfect way to turn people away from their own connection to the all, to the creator, would be to use the church to create evil in the world, you know? So I have all this pedophilia, all this madness. So people can't even have a conversation about that particular religious symbolism, Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit. But it's actually, as far as I can tell, the most useful and most, you know, simplest explanation of how this whole reality and existence works. It's funny I'm saying this, but
not at all.
But the basic thing is getting back down to that level of letting the force that animates you guide you through life. You know, and you'll always be okay. You'll always be fine. And I learned that kind of the hard way while hitchhiking. I had no money, had no nothing. And And then I always would have food if I needed it. I always have a place to stay. I always had people showing up to give me stuff, you know. And funny enough, a lot of Christians, it was either drunks, Christians, former hitchhikers, or truckers that would pick me up, you know. The drunks wanted me to drive for them because they were drinking and driving. The truckers just wanted somebody to be in the truck and they pick up hitchhikers. Former hitchhikers, kind of obvious why. But the Christians, they were like, I don't have anything to fear. You know, they would just tell me, I'm not afraid. I'll just pick you up. If God is protecting me, I'm fine. Why should I fear anything? If you're on the road, I can help, then I'm going to help. Here we go. You know, so that was something that stuck with me. And I was like an anarchist, atheist kind of guy then. But I was fascinated by their fearlessness. And I didn't understand it at the time. But back to the Hyatt story. They were selling this Golden Dawn System of Magic book, huge book. And they had like 20 copies left of the leather-bound edition, and they were like remainder copies, like little fuck-ups on the binding or whatever. And if you bought one of those, they put your name in for a drawing for this. Those weren't leather-bound; they were just regular paper-bound hardcovers. But then you got your name put in for a drawing for this leather-bound one that was signed by Hyatt and Rigardi and all this stuff. And it was like the only one left, 101 of 100 copies. So it was like their personal copy.
Right.
And then I wrote to Hyatt. I bought one of the copies to be in the drawing. And then I wrote an email to Hyatt saying, I said, hey, just give me the leather-bound copy. Like, who's going to know? It doesn't matter, you know. And I didn't know much about his style at that point or his books. But he wrote back and said, oh, no, I can't do that, or I'd be accused of the worst crime in the New Age turnip garden, out of unfairness. And then like 2 weeks later, the leather-bound copy arrived at my house. So later I would kind of come to understand, and I told him, hey, thanks for that book and everything. And he acknowledged that he sent it to me because of that email. And I realized later, one of the things, the core things that he taught me was to always ask for what you want. And you can see the conversation where he's discussing that with me on one of the DVDs, you know. He's like, do you really hear this? Most people don't ask for what they want. And so I didn't know it at the time, but I had written that email to him and just said, give me the fucking book, like, who cares? And then I was the only one who wrote him saying that, asking for what I wanted. So he sent it to me. And then from there, we had a lot of email exchanges and then phone exchanges. And then finally I went down there and met him and went to his workshop and then worked on the DVDs. And then again, went down there for more work. And then after he died, I went and helped finish the DVDs at that point.
Wow. So how much time did you get to spend with him? How long were you?
There's a couple different like week-long periods, and then a bunch. Most of the work was done via email and phone. So I was working all the time on the undoing stuff. So when they put out the DVDs, I just asked him how much money, just send them to me as they come out. So I sent like $300, and then I would get the DVDs immediately. And then I was working on the sessions. Then I started working with other people, so I get my hands on people and experience that. See, there's one of my longtime hecklers there in the audience. He always has to try to correct my language, but
always asking for what you want is a bit whoever that is.
Yeah. He wants to argue semantics with me all the time.
Oh, okay.
He's an all right guy, but yeah. Anyway, so
was he as terrifying as I imagined he would have been?
Yeah, at points, and it depends on how your mind, you know, and how you were organized. And I was organized pretty. I was like sort of a mess at that time, but I didn't know I was a mess, you know. And so when I would get these crazy intellectual questions that I thought, if I got the answer to this, then everything's going to be amazing. Yeah. And then he would just cut it down with like 2 words, and so it wasn't that he was necessarily an asshole in that regard. He was in other regards, but it wasn't that he was an ass in that regard. It was that it was painful to face. Those depths of myself that quickly. But going through that pain and that suffering accelerated the undoing process beyond belief. I mean, it accelerated my growth exponentially. So I don't know how to say. I think he was a good-hearted, you know, kind-hearted man. but that he would also be ruthless with the parts of you that are deceptive and manipulative and basically lying, you know, lying to yourself and then lying to him and lying to everyone around you. So in one moment he would be smacking you down, and then in the other moment, he'd be, you know, celebrating your growth with you, going out to dinner, having a nice drink, whatever, super relaxed. Then I remember eating dinner with him once, and everything was chill. And I had opened the menu, and I wanted to get like all the appetizers, you know, not just one. And I was like, hey, do you guys want to share a bunch of these? And he's like, looked at me all stern. He's like, you eat what you want, and I will eat what I want. You know, and I was like, all right, cool, man. Yeah, and that guy in the comments said, Hyatt certainly had a sadistic streak. Well, he did, but he also knew how to use that sadistic streak to push people. So as in my experience, it was never purely sadistic. It was that he took joy in the sadistic aspects of himself, but he also turned that toward people's growth, you know. And if people couldn't handle it, or they got upset or whatever, they ran away. I mean, people now would have a harder time handling him than people back then. You know, I was hardened by punk rock and anarchism and hitchhiking and stuff, so I could handle a lot, and I didn't mind.
Yeah,
you know, I like the teachers who yell at you and shit. That, you know, I like Vernon Howard. I like listening to the Snake Diet Cole Robinson guy on YouTube. He's yelled, you know, hey fatty. He starts every video with, hey fatty, stop fucking eating, fatty. You know.
That's why
I
like
like
Werner Erhard
to,
as well.
What's that?
I like Werner Erhard as well.
Yeah, I like Werner Erhard too.
You're an asshole.
Yeah,
You don't know why you're an asshole. It's relentless. Stop hiding.
Yeah. I like those kind of teachers, and I'm not so much like that. Although I'll reserve a little bit of that. I can turn that on if someone's being ridiculous, you know, at a workshop or something like that. Most of the time, I've cultivated my clientele very, very well in the last few years. So it's all people that I would totally love to hang out with and connect with, and you know, I usually end up becoming close with a lot of clients. They become friends, or we work on projects together. You know,
I would rather I'd imagine that by the time someone gets to you in their search, they pretty much been through the mill, been through the sort of the standard things that you do when you're searching for inner peace. I always imagine you as more of as an end point, as that's where you arrive.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean,
you know,
after everything else.
Yeah, it's true. And, you know, it's beneficial. People are lucky if they end up doing the material I offer, if they haven't started the search, because it's going to be faster and easier for them. You know, Gurdjieff, the great teacher, once said something like, that the students who came to him who had no experience with any spirituality or any kind of practices at all were able to advance much faster through his teachings than someone who came full of preconceived notions about what it was going to be. So when someone comes to me and asks, like, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I usually just say I'm a garbage man. They're like, what do you mean a garbage man? Well, I said, well, I help people get rid of the tension in their body and the illusions in their mind. And that's it. Get you back to yourself. Get you back to square one. So it's like you have to come home to the body. You have to come home. And when you arrive there, you're present again. You're in touch with your senses. You're in touch with the body. And thanks, Justin, for recommending you work with me. He's always been an interesting guy. I could tell stories about my interactions with this guy. I know him in real life. I probably won't tell those now, but he was like, I thought of him as my arch nemesis for a while, and then we had like various confrontations, and that good and bad, like really extreme on both ends. But interesting guy, and I think he aided in my development during a certain time. You know, right around 2000. Between 2010 and 2012, let's say. Yeah. So it's interesting to see him on here.
So you know him in life, or
you
you do? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So was there a moment?
Yeah. So yeah, anyway, you're saying that essentially what I do, you come back home, back into the body. And from there, you have a chance at ending the fake suffering of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, you can start to embrace life as an endless celebration, as an endless adventure. And then the result of all these three things I call becoming a celebrationist. I like to put the ist on there. It's a fun thing. But essentially that you remember there's this part of your perception that already knows, that recognizes everything in reality as a celebration. It has a celebratory spirit to it. So you're at a funeral and you realize how beautiful this is and how the texture of all these emotions and the rawness of the experience is beautiful. So not that you're, putting on a party hat and dancing and all that stuff. You can be appropriate to whatever degree you want to, but you're remembering that it's totally glorious to have in existence at all, to be able to perceive anything, even if it's pain, even if it's suffering, even if your expectations and your goals have been foiled for a decade, you can still have this sense of appreciation. And part of that is because when you're present, you'll remember that, like the way Hyatt described it, there are no guarantees. And what I've come to understand about that is that there's no way that this is supposed to go. It's not supposed to go how I expect it to go. You know what I mean? That's like playing God. That's maybe it's supposed to go that you have a series of 50,000 failures and then you just die. But who gives a shit? You know what I mean? What you can live all that time. You can have adventures all that time. You can have fun all that time. Trying all those things. And maybe you succeed 75% at each of those things. So you actually had this amazing life, but people won't recognize it because they think it's supposed to go a certain way. So that's the grand illusion. You have ideas of how things are supposed to be, and then you have reality. And when those two things clash, when reality doesn't go the way that you want, then we call that a problem. That's the only effective definition of problem is, I want things to go this way, and they went that way. That's it. So the problems don't even really exist. It's just that things are going a different way than you wanted or you expected them to go. So if you can just align yourself with however things are going, you know what I mean? Just decide to love your chain of circumstances. So like one of my favorite musicians, Daniel Higgs, in the song A Message from the Beautiful on the album Say God, which is totally amazing. He says, our parade of circumstances is itself a melody.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, you see how his lyrics are like that. You can let it sink in a little bit. Like, what does that even mean? Our parade of circumstances. So you're at a parade, which means you're seated, and it's going by. All these circumstances going by, and that itself is a melody.
Oh, I'm loving this chat.
Yeah, you can tune into that thing, that parade that's going by. So no matter where you are, and I go all over the world, whatever, there's just still this screen, this experience, sensory experience of circumstances parading by, and some of them feel good, some of them feel painful, some of them feel whatever. But when you're watching it and listening to it in that way, it's absolute beauty, meaning like it's absolute beauty no matter what your mind thinks of it. You know what I mean? No matter how much you resist it, even your resistance is part of that joy. So that's what I mean when I say a celebrationist. You just keep usurping any attempt at your mind to create suffering. There's just no need.
Wow, man.
Yeah, it's interesting, man.
Beautiful
Life is totally amazing. It's inexplicable. It's mysterious. It's unexplained,
Oh, it's a mystery. That's absolutely. It's a mystery. There's no getting around that. Did EJ Gold come before or after Hyatt?
That's interesting, man. EJ is a whole other thing, and he really helped me a lot in my life, in business, in really expanding my awareness of existence into all different realms I never would have experienced. But then even in teaching me how to do that on my own, you know what I mean? How to continue to expand and go into fields and things that I never, and skills and things I never would have done before. He's kind of like improving life, you know what I mean? Like all on every level.
Wow.
And what a guy. I remember the first experience I had with him, and this was around a book as well, The American Book of the Dead, which is an excellent book. It kind of transforms itself and you over the years. And it gave me a perspective of like, it's about the bardos, you know, so this between lives or between situations state. And we think that that life is like this one dimensional thing, this one path, but that in that book I kind of learned you could be living and dying and coming back to life into a whole new situation moment by moment. Philip K. Dick kind of opened my mind to that, like in some of those sci-fi where the people like the movie Dark City, where people are getting memories injected every night, so it would erase the previous day to get the memories injected, and the scene would build around them. And one day they're poor, and the next day they're rich, and like these aliens were studying them. And so I thought, how the fuck would I know if like I just got injected with memories, and this whole reality thing just started right now, you know? So I didn't realize that, you know, I didn't think of that before then. So let's flash to EJ. I had this book, American Book of the Dead, but I have no clue. I had no clue like where I got it. You know, I don't remember at all where I got it or how I got it, but I was bringing it with me. And I was in Southern California, in Carlsbad at that time, this beautiful house near the beautiful beaches there, near Encinitas and all, a great place. And EJ and his crew have had like an insane presence online forever. Like as long as there's been online, they were using message boards for their work and their studies and teachings, and in that, on one of those web presences, so they do readings from the Book of the Dead for people who died, for people who are sick, you know, all these different. And there's one of the EJ folks just showed up on the call here too. This is so funny. It's like all the worlds of my life showing up on here. It's great to see it, everybody. But yeah, talking about EJ, they had a site with a practice called remoting. So they would, their group who lives all around EJ would read the book together. So let's say it was Friday nights at 6:30 p.m. at that time. And you could sign up on the remoting site, which was just a little email, enter your email and name, and they would write you back and say, oh, are you going to do the remoting? Meaning during that half hour, you would just be aware that you were part of that group that was reading the book, no matter where you were in the world. So you kind of just align yourself with them somehow. So I thought, okay, this will be interesting. I have this book, and I had become familiar. Actually, it was an Undoing guy from Canada that told me to get the book Just Because Club, which I recommend to everyone, by Claude Needham, who's a colleague and friend of mine and of E.J. Gold. And in that book, there's experiments. So you probably read when I was doing experiments out of that on the old Creative Deconstruction blog. And I did most of what's in that book, and it's all amazing adventures. Totally mind-blowing. Going to the grocery store, but not touching anything in the entire store and staying in there for an hour and then leaving this certain way. And just maybe it's going to sound mind-blowing, but it starts to get bizarre.
No, I did that after you described that one on to me, and I did it. Actually went and did it. And then the next exercise along, which was like going in and being invisible.
Well, there's a museum one where you can look at everything except art.
Yeah.
For 2 hours, you know, I had the security guards following me around and wondering what the hell I was doing. But anyway, so back to this remoting thing. I signed up for it, and then that day I thought, I don't think I want to do it tonight, you know. For some reason I thought this is kind of weird. I want to go out to a movie with my girlfriend at the time. And then I got the email, and they weren't sure that I had signed up or not. So I had an out, you know. I was like, And for some reason, I'd learned to follow this intuition throughout my life, but then it was new to me, and I thought, I started writing an email, no, I'm not going to go. And then I was like, actually, no, I'm gonna do this. I signed up for it, then I'm gonna do it. Okay. And then I got this weird text, and I had a cell phone, some bizarre little tiny Nokia cell phone.
Yeah.
And like once we had to go buy a card every month to re-up for the next month. It was weird, but I had that phone, so almost no one from Minnesota had that number from where I'm from. But I get this text, and I was like, it was from a woman from my high school, and I hadn't heard from those people in like at least 10 years. No, it was more than that. It was like, I don't know how many years, man. But there was a girl named Katie R. Meyer, who had my exact same birthday and year, and so we were good friends from when we were in high school and on up. And somehow I had like a really special friendship with her. And so this other woman who was friends with both of us, I hadn't talked to them in years, sent me a text saying, hey, Garrett, this is so-and-so from high school, and I got your number from your sister, and Katie R. Meyer's in the hospital right now, and they're going to take her off life support tonight. And so I thought you should know, because she was talking about you recently. She's like, she was remembering you, and that she always, had this great connection with you. And I was like, wow, why is she thinking of me right now? So that was fascinating. I'm about to read the Book of the Dead, which you read for people who have died to guide their being through the between life states, so to speak, which could be a metaphor for your day-to-day life, but it could be exactly what it purports itself to be. So then right at, let's say it was 6:30 p.m., right at the fucking moment that remoting group was going to start, and I'm to start reading this book, which I was taking all cavalierly. I was like, I'll read the Book of the Dead, and I'll play some video games later. It was just all in the flow of life. Nothing was serious about it. Right at that exact second that remoting and reading that Book of the Dead started, I got a text saying she just died. And I was like, I can feel it now. It's like tingling through my whole body. I was like, fuck me, man. She was essentially asking me to read that book for her. You know what I mean? I had not heard from her any time at all in the years between the last time I saw her and that moment. And suddenly I'm getting a text from someone else telling me that she was talking about me, and then she just died. Like at the exact moment the Book of the Dead started. So I opened that book and I was like, reading that like my life depended on it. I'd never experienced something like that before. So that was like sort of the deeper intro into the world of EJ Gold. And I was like, man, this guy is onto something. Like, there must be something true about all this if it starts to happen in my experiential reality this fast and this deep. And like I said, without knowing, I was probably preparing myself for these experiences through that Just Because Club book, which again, I was doing cavalierly, thinking, well, why should I do these exercises? Just because. That was a good enough reason. You know what I mean? Like there's it's like, and again, that points me back to that Holy Spirit idea, because something else is guiding this fucking journey. I'm not driving this, like I'm brought to experiences that I could never have imagined ahead of time. And from there I went and met EJ. I went out there and met EJ and Claude. I had a long phone conversation with Claude, and they were using video games for training at that time. They started with Zelda, and then it went up to Diablo 2, and they used that for many, many years. They probably still do. Trained with them in Diablo 2, which was also amazing training. And I went out there, and at that time, I was doing and I knew I wanted to like build a center or build a business around teaching this. I'm doing, but I had no clue. I had no money. I had no clue. Like, I think I had $5 at the time, and I gave it to them for the meals they were serving us. They have a huge thing around hospitality being part of their practice, which is also amazing. But yeah, I went there, and he sat me at the head of this long table, and I was like thinking, I don't even belong here. I don't know what's going on. And they're like, well, no one arrives here if they don't belong here, first of all, so don't worry about that. And he said, sit over there, and he's like, you're sitting in Leonard Nimoy's chair. And I was like, what the fuck, you know? And he starts mentioning all these different people who were students of his. And I used to think he was doing it to kind of pump himself up. And then I realized the effect overall was that he was saying those people aren't as important to me. He knew all these celebrities. He was good friends with Jim Morrison, all these different people. You know, the phrase "no one here gets out alive," that came from a conversation with Jim Morrison and EJ in LA. And it was that he was saying, like, no, you guys are important to me, way more important than all these celebrities that I've been around. You know, and that was the sense you got after a while, was that was just this world of illusion. And he saw more about my future path and my future development than I was aware of in myself. And he treated me like the guy I would become 10 years after that. He was already treating me that way, and I couldn't understand why, you know? He was like honoring this part of myself that I was unaware of. And I really enjoyed being there. And then I followed his online stuff. He was using Justin TV as well. He told me to use Justin TV. He told me to get online to do this stuff. You know, he set me up to do all that kind of, to do all of that. And I was really motivated then to make it work. So I still stay in touch with those folks. But eventually then, many, many years later, I would go live in Northern California, and I kept going back and visiting there. And then I ended up living there for, I guess it must have been like 5 years. And I was out there sometimes almost every day of the week, and helping them put on workshops and learning and growing. And I never saw him as a guru. I never saw myself as someone who wanted a guru. So I think connecting with him on this, it was more on level playing field, which also you learn in Masonry. Everyone is on the level due to death, which levels us all. And so I had a nice connection with him, like a friend, like as a friend. So we could disagree. I didn't have to take everything he said, but I could be there and learn from this master of so many different skill sets, you know. Everything from stage magic and comedy, like the stuff you're into, you know, and then all the way to like basket arranging. Suddenly we're doing a workshop on basket arranging, you know, not even like making the baskets, but buying baskets and putting shit in them and learning somehow that the basket, the empty space in the basket is the same as the quantum field that reality comes from. And then I remember sitting there and he's like, now I know everyone here is thinking, what the fuck is EJ talking about? Just bear with me. You're going to understand soon. And I was like, later on, I was like, holy shit, he's right. Like, why around Christmas time are there all these baskets at the stores that you normally shop at? And in the baskets have all the same shit you would normally buy. But somehow buying the basket full of that stuff all nicely arranged is better and more fun than buying the stuff itself alone. And so if you think about it, if you have a girlfriend or someone important to you in your life, or your mom or whoever, and you know she likes a certain, say, organic brand of shampoo and conditioner and soap, and maybe some kind of incense, and maybe some kind of, you know, chocolates, whatever, a bunch of stuff. And you know each of those things. If you bought each of those gifts and then just gave them as they are, that would be one experience. But if you bought a basket, a nice basket, you got some ribbon that's her favorite color, and you got all those same items, and you arranged them in the basket, and almost as an experiential journey of taking them out of the basket and seeing them, you wrap that basket up in a nice way, and you present that basket. The value of that gift has now like exponentially, you know what I mean, like grown. You see what I mean?
No, this happened because this happened this very week.
Really?
Yes, I had. We just had Christmas, kind of, and someone very kindly sent me an unsolicited gift, and it was something that she'd made, and it was just objects that she'd put together. You know what I mean? There was no. It was, I mean, in terms of monetary value, it was like, you know, it's just stuff that she's found or that she's acquired. It's not anything she's even bought, but it was the way that she'd arranged it and tied it together and created this beautiful object. And then just the fact that she put it in this, and even the bag she chose, it was like, and it lifted it lifted me out of myself. You know, it was just one of the most powerful gifts I've ever had.
Yeah, man.
Because of what went into it, the thought and it was more than what it was, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally.
And yeah, and that was like, I'm mentioning it because it was for a few. I've already told the story on here before, but it was only, but it relates to what you're saying completely.
Yeah, man. And so that, you know, and so that relates to everything else. It's like this thing that you're overlooking suddenly becomes a tool for awakening, a tool for sharing something with someone that's ineffable, that's more than the sum of the physical parts.
Absolutely.
And at least what I learned is that you can start sharing this aspect of yourself that's endless, that's infinite, that you have to give. And again, this relates to the Holy Spirit. That's what we recognize in each other. It's not the personalities, not the opinions, it's something else. And so so that's one aspect. Then we're learning how to pan gold from the river, you know. And so he would get these gold flecks and then put them in the sand, mix them all up in the water, and then you'd sit there and pan. And panning gold is like this. You have to make this kind of circular motion. And it's really, if you do it too hard, the gold pan itself has little ridges along the bowl. And if you go too hard, the water just pushes all of the dirt and grit and sand and gold right into the water, you know. But the gold is heavier, it'll sink down. So you have to be spinning just at the right speed and the water just moving at the right pace for the gold to stay in those little ridges and the sand to drop down. And if you're doing it, so it was frustrating as hell because you'd sit there going through, and we used BBs, little copper BBs at first, mixed with sand to get that motion correct. And then we'd use sand from the gold mine that he has out in the mountains in California, and the gold claim where you can go out and dig and find little bits of gold. And I remember, and I was so frustrated, you know, I was so pissed, and I paid money to be at that workshop, and I was like 3 days into a 5-day workshop, and I was ready to leave. I was just packing my stuff, and I was like, I gotta get out of here. But they make you go through this form at the beginning of every workshop where you say, like, it says, don't judge your experience here until the workshop's over. Like, no matter what happens, no matter how crazy it seems, no matter how fucked up you feel, don't judge anything that's happened until it's done. Then once it's done, look back, see what you learned, see what happened. If you think it sucked, then tell us, you know, whatever. And I remembered that, and you signed this thing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to stay. But like, I was full of, now what I recognize, like I was full of like life, you know, and presence. And I was aware of too much. I didn't think I could bear it. And I didn't want to do the stupid gold mining anymore, you know. And I thought, is EJ tricking us? Like, what's going on? Where's the gold coming from? Why can't I do this? What's, you know, all this weird questions. And then if you notice, like, okay, I'm not getting along with this one guy, and she's not getting along with this one girl, suddenly, and the EJ's not there when you're arguing with these people, you know, but he'll walk into the room and he goes, okay, Garrett and Fred, you guys come up and run this dredging machine or whatever it was, you know, together. And you don't want to say like, no, I'm not willing to work with that guy, because you feel like an asshole, you know. And so you're like, okay, I'll go work with him. And suddenly you realize you can work with somebody who you would never make the effort to connect with and work with. And actually, they're going to show you things about yourself you couldn't see otherwise. So AJ's just pairing up these enemies, you know, in the room and kind of laughing. And as I calmed down and settled into this discomfort and started doing the panning, just over and over doing the panning. And EJ's like, when you get the movement right, when you get right with yourself, the gold is going to appear in that pan. But what's more important is the alchemical gold that's appearing within you. And suddenly I'm panning, you know, and at first you're focused on value and money, you know, this thing. And I was just panning, and suddenly I just felt this sense of humor and this sense of goodness and joy, just at being there, having this experience, and the beauty of what EJ was able to put together. And suddenly when I realized that, I was just looking down, and fuck me, man, gold started appearing on all the ridges. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like, this is so weird, you know? Like, I had to get right with myself before the gold would appear. And the gold was just the external manifestation. I didn't even care about the gold anymore because of what was going on the inside. And actually, one of the women in the chat right now was at that workshop as well. And I had many. Is
that Raven Wildflower?
Yeah. Great woman, great artist. Um, also part of a great group of people related to that whole world. So yeah, it's this little bit about EJ, just a very little, but I learned a lot from everything he taught, and it was like he's teaching the same thing through everything you could possibly imagine in reality. Maybe today it's guitar lessons. Maybe the next week it's like going to the shooting range and shooting guns. Maybe the next week it's taking everybody to the casinos in Reno and staying up all night, night after night after night. And he's dressed as a woman, gathering a crowd around the craps table, you know what I mean? And making a ruckus and winning every fucking roll. And telling people to go over, and when they spot the magical slot machine, they'll recognize it because it'll be glowing, and they can test if they're tuned in properly, if they run and put a quarter in it and they win. You know, and then people running off verifying it, like, just, he's teaching all the time in this stuff. You know, it's just totally amazing. Making jewelry, carving coins, collecting coins, buying and selling coins, you know, like going through the pennies in your pocket, and recognizing which ones to look for that might have an error mark in it, so you could take that penny that everyone else has just thrown away and sell it on eBay for a few $100s. You know what I mean? Just this currency that's passing through your hands all the time. So becoming aware of what's passing through your hands. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I do, yeah.
So I hope that gives a little bit of an intro to EJ. It's hard. You can't give an intro to EJ, but...
This chat is amazing. I've got to be honest with you, Garrett. I wrote down just a few key points before this afternoon, thinking, well, you know, because for questions to ask you, and what's weird is you're just answering them by riffing. The answers are just all the things I wanted to know are just coming out of the happening. If you know what I mean, it's wonderful.
Yeah, you know, if you remember that time isn't linear, even though we perceive it that way because of the way the brain and the senses work, then, you know, the time of you writing the questions isn't necessarily before us doing the show. You know what I mean? Like this
is like having a chat with myself. Have you done research?
I have assassins planted all over the world, you know, for when
I'm starting to think there's cameras in my house now. It's like I was having the time is non-linear rap, not 10 minutes before we started this.
Yeah, you know, you can't talk about that without it biting you. But
yeah,
I learned that because when I do a weekly undoing session group on Zoom every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Central Europe time, so 7 p.m. your time. We do a weekly session group that we've been doing since like 2014 or 15, and we did daily training. So for a little while, I noticed I noticed a lot of my clients were not being consistent with the undoing. They were doing it when I was there. They were doing it every day when we were doing workshops, but then they wouldn't do the face stretch, the shoulders, the flops, whatever. They wouldn't do the core stuff every single day. And that's where the magic starts to happen. That's where you start to become really present and know the difference between the world of ideas and words and then what's actually happening, and be able to stay in what's actually happening. So takes a massive effort in the beginning to get that engine rolling of being aware and waking up all the time. But during that, we did a daily training because I was like, okay, I'm going to prove that you can do this every day, and that being consistent is going to dramatically enhance and evolve your life. And so it was a group of people. It was anywhere from 6 to 15 people every single day. I think it was 2014 we started, and I did it for like, it must have been like 800 days in a row. So if I was sick, if I was at the airport, it was just every fucking day we're on Zoom. I have a recording of all that too still. But we were doing that, and then when we started to realize some people would watch the video, I would upload the video every day, and then people would catch up if they weren't able to attend live. And what they started to notice was that when they watched the live videos, and this happened to people I've never met even online, but they bought the videos later and they watched them in sequence, and they said they feel like they know everyone in the video. And we became aware in the sequence, I don't know how it happened, we became aware while we were in present time recording the videos that we were in conversation with people that were watching the videos in the future, doing the exercises with us. So we started communicating with those people while we were there. We were like, okay, this is, if you're doing this video now in the future, you're doing it with us now. So even though technically we did this face stretch and these exercises and had this conversation in the past, treat it as though it's live and that you're in this conversation with us now, because you are, because we're aware of you in the future watching this. So we didn't know how many, we didn't know exactly who, but we could feel the presence of the people in the future doing those exercises or doing those full undoing sessions with us. And so we had this attitude like, let's include them in the conversation somehow. So then people watching later doing those videos, which I'm going to release with the book soon, wrote me and said they had a sense that they were there to the point where they were responding to people in the conversation while they're watching the video, you know? So it's pretty interesting stuff. And at that time, the show Sense8, which I didn't like some aspects of it because they pushed this bizarre agenda, you know, this woke agenda. But if you set aside that agenda of that show, the concept itself was right. And it was, in the show, it was like, we called it the Sense8, meaning like, if there's a group of 10 of us on this daily training, and then I go out and have this experience where I kind of evolve, I become aware of something, and I go deeper in my life in this weird way, everyone else in the group that was working together on this daily training would get the experience points from that. So it's kind of like if you play a role-playing game online and you're partied with a number of people, say 7 other people. If you go kill a monster and you get 800 experience points, then each of you gets 100 of those. You know what I mean? So then we started feeling like, wow, if each of us is out doing these adventures and out doing these experiences, or if I go have some, you know, evolution in the way I perceive relationships, the other people in the group were automatically getting those insights. And we were testing it. We were like, fuck, did you guys notice, like, last week I had this happen? They're like, yeah, dude, my relationship changed in that same way. So we were that, you know, tight as a group that everyone was benefiting from our individual efforts. And maybe that's happening all the time with whoever you're connected with in your life, but you don't have the lens on it. You're not recording it every day. You're not, you know what I mean? You're not tuned in to this level all the time. So you might not notice, but we were so tuned in with each other, we started to notice. And then, so we called it the Sense8, you know, we were getting experience points with each other. And that has carried on to this day. I'll get in touch with Lance, a great friend and one of my very first clients ever. I'll get in touch with him and, you know, maybe we didn't talk for 6 months and we both know exactly where that we're starting the conversation at the same point. And there's no way we could have known that each other had like leveled up in these specific ways. Maybe we bought the same weird crypto, you know, coin or something, like, just all kinds of different things have happened like that. So yeah, man, I mean, all of this was a result of seeking to make myself okay, going really deep into everything, realizing that quest was futile, falling to my knees and being just destroyed, the parts of me that were not me being destroyed, and then realizing everything's okay. If you exist, it's all okay. Even if you're getting your leg cut off, it's okay. Who said that's not supposed to happen? And you can sail through it in a certain way. And then from there, the whole rest of the process, so I call that transcendence, meaning you transcend the falseness of your personality. Your identity, you stop identifying with ideas of who you are. So they're all fake, good, bad, ugly, doesn't matter, they're all fake. And then your identity's in limbo. It's like, what the fuck am I? What is this going on? And then your identity starts to settle into identifying with, like I said, that sense of celebration, or just the person watching the parade, you know, the parade of circumstances. So from there, then there's 2 worlds. There's the world in which you have this body and this life and this name and this, you know, momentum of what you've been working on. And that is the world where everything matters. Everything matters. Like, it matters how you treat people. It matters what you study. It matters what you do, you know. But then there's transcendence, meaning you remember none of it matters at all. And it's amazing to watch it unfold. You can't mix up those two, you know. So in this thing, okay, everything matters. You know, be responsible for yourself and live a really good life. Treat people well, and enrich yourself and everybody all the time. And then you'll fuck it up. You'll hurt people. It will be messed up. And that's there to bring you back to the transcendence. Meaning, this isn't your will. This is God's will unfolding. And there's no way you can conceptualize or know what that is. It's too far beyond, you know. So from there, then you just explore the adventure. You let yourself unfold in it, and explore it and enjoy it. And so then, and that's where E.J. Gould came in. It was like, oh, there's all this stuff you can do. Like you can do drawing, but drawing in a certain way. You can do painting. You can learn. You can make a career of yourself as a painter very quickly. You know, it's just ideas that get in the way. So there's so many things to explore. It's like an open world game in which like every direction expands as you start to perceive it. You know, whether that's staring at a flower and you get closer and closer, and it's like, whoa, every flower is amazing. You know. Or you get a grand view of a sunset, you know what I mean? And kind of realizing that everything that you're experiencing, this is the first and last time you will ever experience it. All the time. And only the tomb of familiarity or the delusion of permanence can make you forget what's the glory of what's actually going on. You know, other teachers, Walt Whitman helps. You study Walt Whitman, that's a nice one to throw in there. He was very influential in my young life. But yeah, EJ helped expand me quite a bit. And there was other teachers. There was a rabbi I really liked who taught me some Kabbalah. Norman Allen, the yoga teacher in Hawaii, that was one of my first teachers who really bashed me over the brain and treated me really well and helped me expand my life. And Justin there is asking, talk about my Zen influences. I mean,
which is a subject that comes up a fair bit on this show, so that'll be
the Zen thing. I mean that's interesting. But I used to go to the Zendo in Eugene, Oregon. I would bike there every morning, and I think it was at 5:30. You know, whether it was rain or anything, and go to the Zendo and just sit there and stare at the wall. But I consider myself kind of a rogue wandering bishop, you know, or a rogue wandering monk who doesn't. I could never adopt any tradition, you know. I could never adopt any. Just as much as I said about the jobs, my experience with Zen was the same thing. Like in this song I really like by this Christian band, The Pines, they have this line that says, I'm a monk without a temple. I'm the only home I've found. You know, I am a monk without a temple, and I am the only home that I've found. And so, or like in the show Sons of Anarchy, which I kind of enjoyed, there's a nomad label. So there's the guys who have their crew, they have their, you know, okay, the Ventura crew or the LA crew or the whatever lodge, you know, they didn't call it lodge, but they called it club. But there was these nomads who didn't have a club, but they would go wherever they were needed and help out. And that's why I saw my experience with the Zendo. You know, I was there. I didn't even care that much about the guy who was running it, although I had appreciation that he built the space and he set it up and there was a space and you stare at the white wall every day till you're not frustrated at staring at the white wall. And I just went there every day. I really enjoyed it. I stayed for that and the slow walking meditation. And I think it was an hour, 15 minutes walking slow, and then another 45 minutes, and then a breakfast and some chanting, and then you go home. But what was fascinating is all these sort of liberal types, lefty types, were supporting that Zendo, and they had a certain idea of what the monks would be like, and their idea was this peace and light, and they eat vegan and all this stuff. And so they arranged this whole meal and this whole little party for these monks from Japan, from the sister, you know, Zendo. And they came out, and I was smoking cigarettes at the time, and all these people were there, and they were trying to be proper around the monks from Japan. And they had all this vegan food, and the monks were sitting there eating hot dogs, you know. And they were like, they saw that I was gonna have a cigarette, and they're like, oh, we want to try that kind of tobacco, come over here. And then we're all sitting in the backyard smoking cigarettes of the Zendo, you know. And the supporters of the Zendo, all the sort of liberal types, were like looking over, like really not understanding, kind of scowling at all of us, like we were soiling, you know, the innocence of the Japanese Zen monks. So that was pretty fascinating. And then, you know, I had one of my favorite teachers of all, and I'm about to put up, I don't know why I didn't put it up yet. I just haven't posted it, but it's like a 2-hour podcast. It'll be the most recent one whenever I post it, with my teacher, Mark Uno from the University of Oregon. He's a Shin Buddhist priest, Japanese. And his father is one of the main people credited with bringing that tradition to the West, which came to the West before Zen Buddhism, before Suzuki. Shin Buddhism was the first one to arrive in the US. And, you know, I could tell stories all night, but
Please.
the monastery where Soto Zen came from, where Dogen was at, is the exact same monastery in Japan where Shin Buddhism developed. And the monkhood had become corrupt. So they were like almost competing with each other. Who could get more alms? Who could stitch more gold into their robes? You know, it would become corrupted and weird. And so Dogen's reaction to it was, and they're a few hundred years apart, but same exact monastery, you know. And Dogen's response was, the only way to solve this is to retreat as far as possible from the world. So he built that monastery where now they have the marathon monks at the top of the mountain, and they run along the mountain edge in the wind, and some of them just blow off and die. And so he thought you have to retreat from the world entirely, just and remove yourself, or you're going to become corrupted. There's no other way, which I disagree with. But I appreciate his approach, because you could retreat for a while and come back, but it's like nearly an impossible path. So this other guy, Shinran, was there at the same time as another monk named Honen. And Honen told him, hey, there's this thread, there's this idea of Buddhism that's spreading around. It's kind of like forbidden, but you can actually have a wife, and you don't need to do all these things, these weird practices that we're doing. And it was in, I can't remember, the Diamond Sutra. It was in one of the sutras where they list all these vows. And in the sutras, they're technically negative vows. So you'll have this list of, if all of humanity is not enlightened, then I will not take my enlightenment. So then when you're reading it, it's presumed that since it's a Buddha who composed that sutra, that they have become enlightened. So that means all the vows are true. So then that's how you learn. You read it, okay, he says, if all humanity is not going to be born in the Pure Land, which the Pure Land is a place where everything is perfect, the conditions are perfect for your enlightenment. Everywhere you look, you can't help but become enlightened. And Shin Buddhism is a type of Pure Land Buddhism, which means you're aiming to become reborn in the Pure Land where all the conditions are perfect for your enlightenment. Now, again, as I mentioned before with this American Book of the Dead, you could think of it as you die and then become reborn into another body, or you could see it as you're always being reborn and you just forget. And the tomb of familiarity helps you forget, thinking everything's just the same. You could be in a totally different location with totally different circumstances at any given moment, depending on your perception of what's going on. So hold that in mind. You have Shinran, Honen, telling him all this, and he's like, yeah, fuck the monkhood, fuck all this, I'm leaving here. He comes down the mountain and he goes to the southern shores of Japan and starts teaching the lay people who were forbidden from studying Buddhism, forbidden from practicing. So the weapons makers, the butchers, the women. And he starts teaching them the name of Amida Buddha, or Amitabha Buddha, which is pronounced Namu Amida Butsu, which is a Japanese kind of phonetic attempt at a phonetic pronunciation. That's something that they had trouble pronouncing. But what was I just watching the other day, and there was someone chanting. It was a show or a movie. It was so funny. Oh, it was the movie Martin Scorsese film Silence, where priests are going to Japan and they get totally abused and fucked up. And at the end of that, during one of the priest's funeral, there's a monk chanting the Nembutsu, the name of Amida Buddha. Funny that just came up. I actually had it tattooed on my arm, so I would always remember. And it was another exit from all the seeking, was learning that name of Amida Buddha, Namu Amida Butsu, because in this sutra that Honen showed Shinran, one of the vows was, if it was, and forgive me, I'm paraphrasing, but it was if humans are not guaranteed birth in the Pure Land by hearing my name 10 times, and then he said even one time, if they're not guaranteed that, then I will not take my enlightenment. So Honen and Shinran were like, look, we know Amida Buddha became enlightened, and so now we know that just by hearing his name, just by saying or hearing his name, you're guaranteed birth in the Pure Land. So why do all this other stuff? And we can go give the name to all these people who are forbidden from studying or becoming part of the monkhood or from practicing Buddhism. Let's just go give everyone the name right now and chant it. And so that's the core practice of that, of Shin Buddhism, is to just repeat the name. And that there's this lightning moment of entrusting, they call it. And so the name means, I am a foolish being trapped in a world of blind passions, meaning I'm just driven this way and that, and I don't even know why. I don't even know why I crave what I crave, and I can't help but crave it and run after it, even though I know it's not going to fill this emptiness. So I'm a foolish being trapped in a world of blind passions, and yet I fully entrust myself into the unfolding of limitless life or boundless compassion. So I'm totally foolish. I have no idea what's going on. I'm driven by all these things that I don't even understand. And yet, in the face of this, I fully entrust myself into the unfolding of limitless life. And so that really influenced my idea of victim to adventurer, you know, entrust yourself into the unfolding of this thing. And so that's all you can do. Realize you can't help yourself and let go. And in that, I see the segue between what Shinran was teaching and what Jesus and the Holy Spirit and God are attempting to teach. It's not so much that the Bible itself is important, or that the writings of Shinran are important, or that the teachings, or that there is something called Buddhism and there is something called Christianity. Christianity itself says the word is written in your heart, meaning all the Bibles could be burned. Every trace of the religion could be destroyed. And you would still find yourself arriving at the point that the religion was trying to teach you. Now, I'm not saying it's a metaphor. I'm not saying Jesus is a metaphor. I'm not saying all religions lead to the same place, because that's not true. That's in the world of words that you can think that everything is equated. It's not equated. But that what is at the experiential root of what Christianity is attempting to teach is what Shinran arrived at without knowing that there was a Jesus, or without, you know what I mean? He arrived at that same thing, and then it came out through who and what he was at that point in time. But you can't do comparative religion and write books about it and think that you're accomplishing something. What I'm saying is, your direct experience, you will know that you know. You see what I mean? You will know. You have to know that you know whatever thing, and then you'll go, okay, I'm sitting right here with Shinran, and I know exactly what he was teaching, and I don't care if the book got translated wrong and it was passed down through 200 hands, or reading the Bible and you're like, okay, this part's not because you don't want to follow it, not because you disagree, but you're like, this isn't what I know. Scrap it. You know what I mean? This is what I know, so that you can discern the truth of your existence through any of these teachings, and you immediately know who's lying, who's full of shit. So it's like your bullshit detector gets turned on, and you can open a book and read a little bit of it and go, no, this person was just, they read books and then wrote a book about the books they read. Or you grab another book and you're like, damn, okay, this person they knew what they were doing, and you can be there with them and they're teaching you, you know? Like Whitman said in one of his poems, like, you can search for me in these pages, but you'll never find me there. And yet, you know, I'm sitting with you in this forest. You know what I mean? Like he's communicating with you, who he knows is reading the book in the future, but he was directly communicating with you when he was composing that. So if you allow it to happen, he's there with you. teaching you through the book, but you can't find in the book anywhere where it is. You know what I mean? Because it's not in the book itself. It's already in you. So the part of him that is the animating force, let's call it the breath that God breathed into him at the moment of his conception, is the exact same animating force that is in you. It's in me. And the best way I can put it is, it's the thing that would separate a dead body of me and this living version of me. So that thing is the same in all of us. So when you're looking at another, and when the yoga people, which they say, most of them don't seem to understand this namaste thing, all it's trying to say is the same thing I just said.
Yes.
This Holy Spirit is there, and all you do is get out of its way, and it's going to run your life, and it's going to run your life in a better way than you ever could. And it's like, this is the core of a lot of things, and people get so confused because it's all words and it's all ideas. But this is as simple as it gets. You just boil it all down. It's as simple as it gets. But that's why you said, "Oh, I feel like I know you." Well, it's because there's a little less garbage in the way, a little less tension, a little less resistance to life, a little less adherence to the personality. You let the personality die a little bit, and then all that's left is this Holy Spirit, and it's animating everyone and everything. So, I could go on, but this is a lot of fun, man. There's a line in Bonnie Prince Billy, one of my other favorite musicians.
Oh.
And it's funny because I heard Daniel Higgs through Bonnie Prince Billy had Daniel Higgs open for him at a show in Nevada City. And then I realized way later, I saw Daniel Higgs play in 1995 with Fugazi with his band Lungfish in Minneapolis. I didn't even know who Daniel Higgs was. And then fast forward like 20 years later, and I'm seeing this guy like Daniel Higgs. I was like, who is this guy? And I realized, he's been in my life this whole time. But Bonnie Prince Billy has a line that says, "When you think like a hermit, you forget what you know." But it's in this dialogue, in this exchange where, something can happen that can't happen if I spent this same time just sitting here trying to write it out or trying to express it. So
it's like when we sat down at the start of this, I had no idea how this was going to go.
Yeah, me neither.
Literally no idea. And I was saying to a friend of mine on the phone, I'm really excited about tonight. I wanted to talk to Garrett for the longest time, but I don't know if he's going to turn up wearing like a mad hat to try and throw me on. Do you know what I mean? Or sort of wake me from my sleep. Some weird gurge of shit, or like cut the feed halfway through a sentence, or or if he's just going to be, I had no idea. And it's been one of the most beautiful chats I've ever had. I mean, this has been great.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I'm really glad to hear it. Me too. I love this. This is cool. And does this record somehow? Is there a way we can get this?
It does, unless Instagram decide to be bastards, which they have done a couple of times. If
that happens, it happens. No big deal.
Yeah, but when I end this, I should be able to save it to my IGTV, and then I can share it to Facebook, and then you can share it if you'd like as well. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and then I can use a scraper or something. I'll download it and then give you the video back. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I would love to have a copy, just to listen to it, see what I can learn.
I'm telling you, this has been such a pleasure, Garrett. I just feel like zip files have opened up, and it's been, and I don't mean to, it's just nice. It's just been it's been amazing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. It's a lot of fun to really connect.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. And yeah, you should, we'll meet up in person sometime. I don't know. I like getting to the UK, but now it's like some kind of prison state.
Yeah. Now the plague and the Brexit and everything else. But
yeah, I'll do a workshop here as soon as it opens up. I have a place rented. I'm just delaying the dates. So but sometime in the summer, maybe in May or maybe in July. But yeah, I'm having a workshop out here at a nice villa. So I'll let you know.
In fact, just to finish off, but where can people find you? Because half the people who are watching you, where can they find you? Where can they learn more? Where can they?
Oh yeah, well, if you go to radicalundoing.com, you can get on the email list and check out some stuff there. There's the Art of NGF podcast. It's on iTunes and Stitcher and Spotify. And then and leave a review, please, in iTunes if you listen. I like to see the reviews. it doesn't matter. You can leave a hate review or a good review or a middle review. It's all fine by me. I like the hate reviews kind of, like, because then I can do an episode about it. But the Art of NGF podcast. Then you can just add me on Facebook. I think I still have like 1,000 friends space left on there. So add me on Facebook, Garrett Daun, and just send me a message. I like to just communicate with folks, and then and basically the way the business is now, the training, there's just one major cornerstone. I had all these workshops in the past, but I boiled it down to one thing, which is the Radical Undoing 28-day intensive. So I'm conducting that live with the group, 6 to 8 times a year. And then also it's there in recording form. So someone, if they want to do it alone, they can just work it alone, or they can do it privately with me. So it's 2 full Radical Undoing sessions a week to really crank up the energy and I hate using that word, to really crank up your motivation and break apart the tensions and become present faster. And then every day there's like an adventure that you do. Could be written, could be a cognitive experiment, could be out in the world, adventure kind of stuff. So every day there's a new adventure, and you do that. And then every morning there's a big morning routine, and then every night a little evening routine. And the person you are when you start it is totally different than the person who emerges out the other side. So that's like the beginning. That's like the main thing you do with the business. With the training that I offer. And then after that, there's some options. There's a 12-week elite training where I'll do work with some guys that way, individual or in a group or private. And then beyond that, I'm doing private retreats. So like we did one in Dubrovnik with some guys, some investor and real estate guys. They wanted to just have me come down to their villa, and then we put together a whole like a week-long workshop tailored to what they wanted to accomplish and experience. So I'm open and probably going to start focusing on doing those, rent a nice villa somewhere beautiful, gather a group of people, have the food taken care of, the lodging taken care of, get out swimming, get out in nature. So that's another thing, if anyone watching wants to you got 5, 10 friends, you want to put something like that together, come out to Croatia or somewhere in Europe, we'll do that. And then all this is leading toward building a center, which is going to be called Summerland. It's going to have a crow rehabilitation and education and rehabilitation and education facility for crows and corvids, of all types, ravens. They're the smartest animal on the planet. I think they're competing with humans, I put them above generally because they don't fuck it up as much as we do. But we have some things that we can do that they can't. So it's a nice communication to have, to connect with crows. And then big art, music, dance, and theater space. Of course, my big luxurious house. And then some rental units so people can come and work on their business, meet other people working on their business, stay for a month or 2, do some undoing, do some workshops. And then I'll have other teachers and people come out there. Wilderness skills, martial arts, yoga, whatever else to kind of supplement all this stuff. So that's where it's leading, so if anyone on here likes that idea, get in touch. And like I said, add me on Facebook. That's going to be the easiest way. And then you can connect to all the other links through there, or radicalundoing.com in case I get totally banned or we all get banned from Facebook or something. Then we can use the email list, or we can use the Telegram or Signal or whatever, million of ways of sending text back and forth,
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Please show your appreciation for Mr. Garrett Daun via the love hearts up the side of the screen method.
I saw this heart. That's special. That's sweet. Yeah, I really like that.
There they go. Thank you, Garrett. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for pushing me. I know we were talking about this for like a year, so
yeah.
So that's really awesome. Yeah, I'm happy to be here, and let's just stay in touch and do something else together. We can have fun.
Please, that would be beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and nice to see everybody in the chat. It was a fascinating crew here. Really good.
Yeah, it's been good times. Take care, mate. I'll speak to you soon. Take care.
Yeah. Let's talk. Let's do a private call sometime and just catch up.
Please, that'd be beautiful. Right. Yeah, definitely.
All right. And let me know on the video here if it happens, it happens. If not, then we did it anyway. No big deal.
Yeah. I'm going to do my best to try and save it now.
All right.
Take care, man.
Talk to you soon. Enjoy.
And this should now... Garrett should... There we go. Garrett Daun. What a time. What a night. I have nothing to say now. I need to go for a walk. I'm going to go for a walk around the park, around the back of here. And have a look at the sky. Beautiful times. Yeah. We'll be back. There'll be more live streams. I'll do another one tomorrow probably, or maybe Saturday. Stuff's happening. I'll let you know when I just don't want to talk now. I don't want to speak. That was good. That was good. See you next time.